What is the Hegelian dialectic? Okay, we hear a lot of researchers speak on this topic and these types of things, but when certain situations arise, it seems like we kind of throw this notion out the window, and especially in regards to Israel, Palestine, and how that ties into world events and these types of things. It seems like they throw that out the window because they don't want to include. It seems like they don't want to include Israel within that realm of possibility. And folks, the current Zionist state of Israel is included in the Hegelian dialectic principles. Now, why am I doing videos, a video or two on the Hegelian dialectic principle? Well, because I think we really have to come to grasp that, you know, even though history, you can pick up a lot of truth in history, and I use history a lot, okay, um, the the fact of the matter is history between two opposing conflicts have always been created to predetermine what is to happen ever since the fall of man. That has been Satan's agenda since he is the chief of this world, the prince of this world. His goal is to basically eradicate believers in Messiah, believers in Jesus Christ, and these types of things. And so he creates two opposing factions that seem like they're both opposite at one end of the spectrum, but they are actually really one and the same thing. Now, granted, you know, even in the higher echelons of the powers that be, there is divisions among them. They don't get along. I mean, there's certain aspects of people not getting along, but the thing is you have two sides that ultimately want the same goal, and that is a one world system. Okay, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. That's basically what is at play here. Now, a lot of people like to attribute the Hegelian dialectic as dating back to 1776 under the Illuminist Adam Weishaupt, who was a Jesuit, although I don't think he really disassociated himself away from the Jesuits. I just think he basically put that on the back burner when he created the Illuminati the same year that the Declaration of Independence was formed in 1776. A lot of people like to say, well, that is when the Hegelian principles and the fraternity within the fraternity thing took place in regards to Freemasonry and these types of things. And that's where they get their defense of George Washington and these types of things. But I'm not going to get into that right now. Um, what I want to go over real quick before I get into this article is is there an aspect of Hegelian dialectic principles in the Bible? And the closest thing that I could come up with is right here in Revelation 13, 1 through 4, and Daniel 11:24 through 28. Why do I say that? Well, because here we see, you know, like in Revelation 13, we see a beast that stands upon the sand of the sea. Okay, and or a beast that rises up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, as it says here. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon, okay, the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And if you look further in Revelation, uh, 99% of the time, the dragon is represented as Satan. It literally comes out and says that. The dragon is the serpent, the devil, and these types of things. So here we have the dragon, here we have Satan at the helm, at the tip of the pyramid, so to speak, who gives the beast, who is right under him, great authority, power, his seat, Satan's seat, essentially. Okay? Um, and it goes into the one of the heads that was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, "Who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him?" Now, folks, this isn't this isn't just something simple as, that's going to be out in the open. Okay, people are not going to be aware that they're worshiping the dragon. There are people in religious institutions that are not aware that they're worshiping the dragon by being yoked up with this beast system. Okay, but by being yoked up with this beast system, they are essentially worshiping the dragon, which gave the beast its power and great authority. Okay, so here you have the dragon at the tip of the sphere, and you have the beast right underneath it. And it keeps on going down, 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 and you have two opposing factions that are created. You have controlled conflict that's created from this beast in order to bring about one grand synthesis, okay? And I'm going to get into that here very shortly. We also see another possible example of this in Daniel 11, verses 24 through 28. He shall enter peaceably even upon the fattest places of the province, and he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. He shall scatter among them the prey, and spoil and riches, yea, and he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds even for a time. Now pay attention. And he shall stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south with a great army, and the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army. But he shall not stand, for they shall forecast devices against him. They shall forecast devices, predict devices, forecast. This is what's going to happen. Forecast devices. Okay. So obviously this is some kind of a controlled thing. Yea, they that feed of the portion of his meat shall destroy him, and his army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain. Why is that? Because those that are unaware, unknowingly involved in this controlled conflict of a certain event are doing what they're basically taught to do, but they don't know that both sides are in control of the same conflict that is being created. And that's what you can kind of see here in this text. Because if you look at verse 26, yea, they that feed of the portion of his meat shall destroy him, and his army shall overflow, and many shall fall down slain. And if you look at the following verse, it says, and both these kings, the king of the south and the king of the north, both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they shall speak lies at how many tables? One table. So even though on the outside it looks like these kings are at odds with each other, like, what do we have going on now? You have Islam seemingly being at odds with mainstream Christianity, which is yoked up to Catholicism, but aren't they one and the same? Okay. It's just like when it comes to Israel and Palestine. Okay. Israel and Palestine. We are being shown a conflict. Okay. We are being shown a conflict between the Israeli Hamas launching rockets over to Israel and vice versa. I just want to make a quick correction. I know right there I just said the Israeli Hamas, but Hamas basically belongs to the Palestinian Authority. They're basically their terrorist group. So it's basically the conflict between Hamas and the Israeli Mossad or the Israeli army or these types of things. Okay, so I just wanted to make that clear. That was my mistake. I apologize for that. But are they speaking lies at one table? Are they speaking lies at one table? Are they working behind the scenes and bringing about this conflict to bring about a controlled system, a controlled synthesis in regarding the Middle East? That's how we need to look at these things. We can't just look at what's on the surface, at what is being brought to our attention. Okay? Because it says right here, they shall speak lies at one table, but it shall not prosper, for yet the end shall be at the time appointed. Okay, so here we see controlled chaos, controlled controversy, controlled conflict to predetermine history as it boils down through the ages. Okay? So that's one thing how we have to look at, especially when we look at the news and the current events and stuff like that. We have to keep that in mind, that there are two opposing factions here, ultimately working together, even though it seems like they're not working together, to bring about one goal. Okay, and the ultimate goal is to eradicate true born-again, Bible-believing Christianity. I'm not talking about denominational Christianity, okay, but true born-again, Bible-believing Christianity. Okay, so I wanted to get that portion out of the way. In video number 2, we're going to go into detail on the Hegelian dialectic and certain examples of how this practice works.